Oui, je peux le faire. I think a lot of people have. Moi, je suis open, c'est pas un problème, mais j'aime bien quand même. Très bien avec le fait.
I got suggested, I just...
Way back in 93.
En fonction de ce que je dis tout le temps, je
les aime, quoi, vraiment. C'est dingue.
Bonsoir et bienvenue sur Le Mag où nous prouverons aujourd'hui une fois de plus que les gens petits sont des gens formidables. La preuve, mon invité du jour, Björk Gudmundsdottir. Bonjour Björk.
Bonjour.
Voilà, qui depuis son premier album en 93, intitulé Début, est devenue une des stars mondiales de la chanson, et bien plus qu'une star, quelqu'un capable de montrer au grand public ce qu'est l'avant-garde, un peu comme Bowie l'a fait à une autre époque avec le rock. Le dernier album qu'elle a signé, simplement titré Homogénique, est aussi un gros succès public, puisque en France, il est sacré disque de platine, à savoir 300 000 exemplaires vendus, 2 zéniths complets, une artiste formidable, autant de raisons donc d'interviewer Björk, et on commence tout de suite avec le premier extrait, à savoir le clip réalisé brillamment par Michel Gondry, et ça s'appelle Yoga. Björk, we know that your third album, Homogenic, was mostly recorded in Spain. Could you tell me, is it for you very important, the place where you record an album, the feeling that you get from the place you record, or is it just a place like any other place?
Well, I went first to Spain because my friend, who at that point had played for 2 years in my band, he's called Trevor, and he plays the drums. He had a studio there, and I was just going to go there for 1 weekend to work with a man who plays the flamenco guitar. And I liked it so much, I sort of stayed. But I think the role it served for the album was more that it was neutral zone. You know, it was not England, it was not where I had been for 4 years. It was not a city, it was not Iceland, which I love very much, and I have all my friends and family. But it was like just to get work space, you know, and nature. It's got very much nature.
Do you have this? Do you think you have a stronger relationship with nature than, say, people who live in urban cities or in bigger countries than Iceland?
Are you a city boy?
I was born and bred in Paris.
Yeah.
So
nature is unnatural for you, no?
Well, it's
strange.
weird. It's weird. I would say weird.
Yeah. City is weird for me. I remember when I first was in London, I was, I think, 17 or 18, I'm not so sure. And I remember walking, and all these buildings were grey, and I had to wash 3 times a day. I was very hysterical. And I would touch my face like this, and it was dirty, you know. And I'm obsessed with oxygen, so I started to panic. And I would go out of the house and start to walk to get somewhere outside where nobody was there so I could sing. Because I do this all the time in Iceland. And I would walk and walk and walk, and I couldn't get outside where I was on my own. There was no privacy. So I walk and I walk and I walk and I walk. And after 4 hours, I find a graveyard. And I go inside and I try to sing. And some people come and listen to me without me knowing, so I start to cry, and I was very upset.
And you still wanted to go back in big cities after that?
Yeah, because it feels like, you know, it's the same thing with astronauts. They keep trying to go to the moon, and they keep trying to find the aliens. They make all this film about meeting the aliens. They really want to meet them. But I don't think it's particularly cozy in space. Do you think so?
I don't think so.
I think it's very not, you know. And to sit in a space shuttle for maybe 6 months or 1 year, don't think it's very comfortable, you know.
No.
But they still want to meet the aliens.
To
So for me,
bags and to eat frozen food.
exactly. So I travel all this way from Iceland to communicate with foreigners, like you know. And I like it very much. I find it exciting. And I sacrifice nature, my family and my friends, and good oxygen and good water and good sense of humor to be able to communicate with you guys. But I learned to like you very much. And actually some of my closest friends now are foreigners.
Did you think there was a misunderstanding in the beginning when you read like articles saying, "Oh, this girl, she looks like, you know, the little sad elf," or, you know, all these type of cliches that came with the first album? Were you surprised to read that some people thought you were someone very cold or very, sad?
I usually don't read them. Well, I don't see the ones in France, for example. I don't know what they read here, what they write, sorry. Because usually I'm gone before it comes out, you know. I see some of the stuff from England, you know, because I live there, but they seem to write different things in different countries, you know. That I find that too. But usually I don't worry so much about it, you know, because I think when I was a little kid, the kids in my class, they already found me a little bit strange. So I guess I remember deciding not that I was going to do my things anyway. There's two ways of, I remember playing with the kids in the street when I was 5 years old, and finding there was two ways of being. There was crossroad. I could be compromise and be what I'm supposed to be, normal, and under the pressure of small-mindedness and bourgeois, or I could have a happy life and have a good time and just do what I want. And I decided rather just to do what I want, because the other thing, it sounds very boring. I think I'm very lucky because the only barriers that are created for me, I create myself, you know, because I could be doing 900 interviews and 50 billion concerts and have 9,000 record company people around me telling me what to do, but I don't. I write music with people I want most of all in the world to write with. I meet them on a personal basis, and if I want to do a video, I call up the person and we meet on personal, and then we finish the video and we give it to the record company, and if they don't like it, too bad, you know. So I'm mostly just playing games with my friends, you know. Then I guess it's the interviews and the travel where I compromise most, but that is my own choice, how much I do. So you left me on my own to complete the mission. The thing is, all the remixes that are done to my music, I pick myself who does it. And actually not so many remixes have been done because they are never done for marketing reasons. You know, I think in most cases, I think a lot of people look at the word remix as a dirty word because it's like taking maybe a song that's good and cutting off so you can sell more.
Sometimes it can be that in a bad way, but you know, some bad remixes are like that.
Yeah, but I think a remix is word more like I look at it more. It's the same word for me. Remix, cover version, or you know, like in the old days you had the jazz standard. Say like, I don't know, I'll name a classic song.
Summertime. Or...
Yeah, and many people do this song, but everybody know that no one version is the correct one. You know, so I prefer. I don't care in a way so much if it's me who does the version or someone else or what. It's more important for me that it's good, you know. So I usually when I do my version and I'm happy with it, and then usually a person, maybe somebody I'm listening to quite a lot at the time. I can imagine that it's also a question you have to pick the right person for the right song. There has to be a marriage there, or it's not gonna work. So, and then the yoga is for me is a very, it's about certain beauty, but it's a fierce beauty. It's quite, there's no mercy there as well. It's hardcore and a bit like the nature in Iceland. It's very beautiful, but it's not like it is quite tough too. You know, it's not, you know, it's not gonna fall apart. So for me, like, I can see also the sort of, the remixes that were done of yoga were two ways, like how we beat it. A version which takes more the beauty all the way. And then Alec Empire was more to take the nature, the hardcore, like the volcano and that sort of beauty, like all the way. And when I talk to Alec, I tell him that's what I admire most about him, that it's integrity and no compromise in his music. And that's why I ask him. Most of the time, if I talk to the remixers and I tell them why I ask them, what in their character, you know, it takes the remix a long way, you know. For me, I can operate a computer on my own, but very little. So if I want to do big things on a computer, I need to explain what I want, and a programmer will find these things in from synthesizers or collection of samples that the programmer usually have, and then we will make puzzle together what we want. I think especially with me, because I tend to describe music and sounds more with emotional and animated description rather than talk in decibel or I want 7.3 more of mid-range and could you please put a bit more analog. I mean, I talk a little bit like this, but I say more, I want this to sound like a certain character or more sort of human terms, which I think is sometimes healthy for the technology people to look at the equipments they have in a human way.
When was the first time you remember having being satisfied with playing an instrument or singing? Do you remember that time or?
I remember singing in kindergarten. Probably I must have been maybe about three years old. Mm-hmm. I can't remember before that. But I was one of those kids who was singing before I was talking. I don't like talking so much. I prefer singing.
Mm-hmm. I go through all this before you wake up, so I can feel happier to be inside again with you. I go through all this before you wake up, so I can feel happier to be inside again with you. Go through
There was two kinds of rebellion going on when I was about, I started playing in bands when I was about 12, and there was two kinds of rebellions going on. First, there has not been a lot of live music in Reykjavik at that time. There were mostly discos, so there was bands who wanted to play live, and also to sing in Icelandic, which was a big thing because a lot of bands were singing in English. And looking down on your people like your parents who listen to maybe we called it skallapop, which is very hard to translate. But yeah, it was that sort of rebellion, teenage rebellion.
Singing in Icelandic, were you able to transport your music to other countries, or was it like a frontier, the idea of singing in Icelandic?
No. It was not a question of getting a job, because I love working. And I was doing 3 jobs sometimes, you know, and been working since I was a kid. My family is full of tradesmen, so, and very working class, work conscious. So I had never problem with money. I was poor, but I didn't care. I don't want money. That's not what I'm looking for. But I speak English because of communication, not because I want more money. And because if I would speak to you in Icelandic now, þá myndir ekki skilja orðið sem ég segi og myndir ekki komast neitt. Og nógu erfitt það fyrir.
Sure. Then we don't communicate a lot if you speak in Icelandic.
No. It's good now because I'm speaking my second language and you're speaking your second language.
All right.
So we are equal. We meet equal. It's good.
And is it important for you to be in a place where people more or less don't know exactly who you are or don't care who you are? Is it important for you being, because after all, I mean, you're a kind of a star, you know, I mean, you're known in various places around the world, but I suppose that where you were in Spain, people didn't really exactly know who you were. So was it important for you to be able not to be a star because they don't recognize you or they don't care about you?
I like friends, you know. I like knowing people. I like people, actually, if you want to go into it. But it's I feel good when I'm communicating, you know. It's one of my favorite things. But it's a question if people communicate you in an alienating way or not, you know. But places are very different. Like if I spend a day in Paris, I could go to a park, or I could spend a whole evening in African restaurant, and I could go to the library, or I could go into the Institute of Geology, for example, and have interesting conversation with scientists. Or I could go, I was in Morocco and I would, what I wanted to do there was to play chess with the people in the cafes. But you can do things like this, but in Paris I could also make a mistake. But it's not so hard. The rule is, for example, don't go to Virgin Megastore at 8 o'clock on a Friday night is a very good rule, number one. Things like this. Don't order a limousine and go to a premiere of a film, especially if you don't speak French. And then there's several other things like this, and you won't get into trouble.
Like maybe not wear this wonderful pink outfit when you go out shopping so that people don't notice you?
No, I will never compromise with what I am. I was born this way. I'm beyond help. There is nothing that could rescue me. I was like this when I was 2 years old. Also, it's isolated, so people don't move so much. You know, they're there. You walk down. I would now walk down the main street in Reykjavik, and I would meet about. I would meet quite a lot of people I know. Now go to certain shops. Like I know everyone there, you know. And you go to a bar and you know everyone there. So people are not gonna get so crazy. You never get that distance, you know. The times I have sometimes got that craziness in Iceland, but that's when I have not lived there for maybe a year. I've not come. But I walk down the street every day, like now I was for 4 months in Iceland, or 3 months or something. And it goes away very, very quick, you know.
But when you're traveling in foreign, do you at some point get scared of being such a, I know maybe you don't like the term, but such a star, I mean at least considered as a superstar by so many people, doesn't it get frightening at times?
I think you think I'm more a star than I do.
It's possible.
I think so. I don't get it so much. I really don't.
Really?
I do maybe interviews now, let me see, maybe about last few months I've done 6 or 7 a month maybe, you know, and that's the only time they talk about the star thing.
Oh, but look.
And I don't go to those places, you see.
No, but look, you're doing...
And I'm making music with my friends, I'm working with my friends, I go on stage, but then I'm playing music. And do you know what, when I sing, I don't even open my eyes.
Oh, sometimes.
Sometimes, but not so often.
Okay. The idea of knowing that if you wanted, you could say to this 7,000 person, do this, raise the right arm, or say whatever, and they will say it. Isn't it frightening at some point to have this type of power, you know, even if you don't use it?
Do you do it in TV, when you do your interviews? I don't know, when you sat next to me here and spoke in French, I didn't understand you, but I'm sure you said raise your hands. You did, didn't you? Put your hands in the air, go, whoa! I'm sure you did.
Not exactly that, but I guess you could say it was something like that. But
yeah, I guess I also come from a family, and just I've got a very big family, and there are people in my family who do fireplaces, they do lamps. My grandmother paints, and my grandfather, he will show me a Polaroid of the new fireplace he did, and I will play him, you know, the new song I did, you know, and most of my friends, they have a mission in life like me. If it's being a masseuse, or if it's being an actress, or if it's if it's running a shop or having a radio program, you know. And I don't think there's so much difference, really. My favorite situation is to be in a room with people, make music, new music that's never been made before, and have creativity in the air, and you are making magic. That's what I want to do, you know.
Oh, but that's
and that's what I wanted to do when I was 1 year old. That's what I wanted to do when I was 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90. And some people, they want fame because they don't think they're good enough or they want money or power,
Or they're insecure.
or insecure, and then of course they're going to get into trouble because they don't find that, you know. And this sounds like I'm telling you a bad, naive fairy tale, but I still can go in a little corner. I do interviews with people, even though I don't tell anyone, but I don't like so much to do interviews, but I do them so I can go back. You're just like when you love your baby, you pay the electricity bill even though you don't like it so much, so the child can turn the light on, you know? So I do these interviews so I can go back and make more songs, you know? And that's pretty healthy. I think
makes
that's
sense,
pretty
yeah.
healthy.
I'm a fountain of love in the shape of a girl. You're the bird on top.
Interviews, the guy was talking about sex, and I don't know how it came to the subject, and you said something like, but in Iceland people are more sexually active than, say, in Europe or in other places. Did you actually say something like this? Was it like a distortion, or the idea of being of having a more of a I mean, it was linked to nature also. You said, I don't know exactly the term, it said something like, you know, we need to be like that and to communicate sexually like we do, you know, orally.
Yeah, I cannot imagine what it was. I think, I'm guessing now, but maybe we were talking about women. Because, and I'm not saying Icelandic women have more sex, I'm not saying that. But I think they express them in a more straightforward way, you know. It's more the same way as men do in Iceland. There's not so much difference between sexual expression.
It's not so much a taboo subject as it is here.
Well, I've never lived here, so I don't know. But you know, like in a bar in Iceland, a woman will express herself what she wants as much as the man. You know, it's equal.
Like, you mean she can talk to a man and say, I like you, I want to be with you, like a man would say,
yeah, and she will,
without being treated like, oh, she's a bad girl or stuff, just because she's like that, that's what you mean?
I think I have found that. I mean, I've lived in England for 4 years, I've traveled quite a lot, so I'm not going to pretend I know everything about foreigners, but I'm not saying it's better or it's worse, I'm just saying it's different. And like a woman, for example, in London, I don't know, maybe they are more repressed than French women, but I don't know, if they show that they want, they are greedy or cruel or something.
Because, you know, in England, people can be very offended if you mention, you know, if you talk about sex, you know, like in a casual way. Some English or Anglo-Saxon people will get very offended. You know, it's like, you know, they're very prude, you know, in a way. They don't want to discuss, or, you know, they're very much behind their mask, you know what I mean.
I always find it also a bit scary to generalize with nationalities. Because also English people are very different. You go to a pub in the countryside.
That's true.
And it's not sort of like, you know, it's very different people. But you know, you get into interviews and they all want to know what Iceland is like and how different it is. But I think overall, women in Iceland are as independent as men, much more. And for example, I think we have most females in the parliament for the world. I mean, it's not 50-50, but, you know, and we used to have a female president, and the head of parliament is female, and they are more, you know, they are allowed to make decisions for their life without being looked up as criminals, you know.
Let's speak about your friends, or like you said, or the people who work with you. There's one name in the sound that comes, I think since day one, since the first solo album, is Marius de Vries, who's I think an engineer or a mixer. I don't know what's the exact term, but
He's a programmer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what type of relationship do you have with him, and how come he's one of the person that seem to be with you on and on the albums?
Well, I worked with Marius 93, 94, and the first half of 95. I haven't really worked with him since, but it was a triangle that happened with me and Nelly Hooper and Marius. Marius is a programmer, but he's a very, very good programmer. He's what you would call a creative programmer. With Marius, the first time I met him, for one sound I said it had to sound like the fluffy bit on top of a coconut. And he went around and he found the sound and played it for me, and he said, "Do you mean like this?" And I said, "Yes, exactly like this." So he is a bit...
A translator in a way.
He's almost like a psychiatrist, no?
Psychic?
Like a psychiatrist. Like he would tune into a personality, and he knows what you mean when you say certain things, you know. And that can be very helpful.
To speak about the people who worked on Homogenic, there was one surprise for people like me who read about the album before it was released, reading there's going to be this song and these people working on it, and there was lots of talk of you working with Reza, Prince Rakim, and I think he only appeared in one or two of the remixes coming out after the album, but he didn't appear per se in the album itself. Could you tell us how does it happen that artists like you work with lots of people, and at the end, when you listen to the record, some of them are here, some of them are not. What makes the choice of we're going to keep this or take away this for the final album?
Yeah, I make this choice, but in that case, I think in like I get confused. 95 or 6. There were people from Wu-Tang Clan contacted me, wanted to work with me. But I guess it's also in your work that there's a lot of faxes going back and forth, and some things happen and some don't, So I couldn't really picture how we could work together. Then when I started to think about Homogenic and how that should be, and thinking that it should be like quite energetic, like explosive beats that are still very simple, and then string arrangements and this and the voice, but really naked, very stark. I thought maybe he would be a brilliant person to do these beats with. So I contacted him, I think in 96, saying, would you be interested in doing the beats to the whole album with me? And he said yes, and he was going to come to Spain. And with his wife and his child or something. And then he was doing at that time the Wu-Tang Clan album. And I think it delayed and delayed and delayed. And by that time, because usually I'm working with several people, and you never know where the magic happens, because that's, of course, something you cannot control. It just either happens or it doesn't happen. And there were a lot of things happening between me and Mark Bell, who at that point, I met him first. We were maybe going to work together in 91. And then suddenly after we talk and we communicate, and then in like 96, in like November, he comes to Spain just for a week, and he ended up staying for 6 months. So I we were talking, me and Risa, yeah, we're gonna do the album, great, but when he had finished his album, which was in April, I had finished the album with Mark. So, but there was one song which was still a problem for me, which was Bachelorette. I still was not satisfied with the beats there. And so I went to New York and met with the Wu-Tang Clan, and we went to studio for a few days, and just to see what happens. You know, especially when you meet people for the first time, you don't know, you know, what's going to happen. And it's more when you have a relationship after many years, you sort of know where the two energy is going to go together. And what happened is that he did a new beat to Bachelorette, which I thought was a different family from the beats of the other album. So I decided the version I did with Mark Bell and Marcus Strauss should stay on the album. And that is more like a remix, you know. And then we did a new song together and talked about working together sometimes later. But, you know, we don't know. That might happen and it might not happen. We just have to go with the flow and see what happens. Like everything, it's a very delicate relationship between discipline and freedom. And right in the middle lives joy. If you are going too much to freedom, you get lost. And if you go too much to discipline, you get stuck. So it's a very fine line. So there are certain things that are always the same, like the speed of the song, for example, or something like this, or the key, for example, and the structure is the same. But I'm getting better to write songs. I think give me more 20 years and I will be good. But I'm still, to have structure that's very simple, very strong, that's my target. I have still not reached it. But still has a lot of freedom inside. So there's a lot of structure, but a lot of freedom. So when I walk on stage, it is a tool. The songs are structures and are a tool to put any emotion can go through it. You know, like I can come just as I am on the stage in whatever mood I am and express myself. It doesn't restrict me. That is the target. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's why I like to do live concerts, because before you walk on stage, you never know.
Do you have any idea in advance of the musical direction you're going to take, or does it happen when you are in the process of preparing a new album? For example, the follow-up to Homogenic, do you have the faintest idea what it's going to sound like, or is it totally alien to you at this point?
Well, I already have about 8 songs, but they are not complete, you know. But it's more like, it's just phases I go through, you know, like, I've always been like this. Like when I was 15, I would wear red. I would just wear red for a whole year, and red T-shirt, red, you know, and only, you know, eat yellow food or something, you know, and it's just phases you go through, you know, and you don't know why. You find out 3 or 4 years later why, or you can analyze it or whatever. But most of the time it's not important. Like, for example, this month maybe you just want to go to a Thai restaurant. You have craving for Thai food. You just want it so much. And you only want to be with this friend because he has that particular sense of humor. And then you end up writing this kind of songs that are a mixture of this friend of yours, Thai food, and I don't know, I'm just making this up to make you see. So where I go next is more just like, you know, I wake up in the morning and what turned me on. And usually it's more connected with mystery. Because the minute you said, I know, all the songs I'm making this last few months are with this scale in it. And you say it, and you break the spell. And the magic goes away. And then, because the demon in you, who is the prankster who writes the songs, he just goes somewhere else. And he hides behind your knee or something. And before the next song you write, it's completely different. You go, you know, and it's got something completely different in it. And you just have to make it go where it wants, because you start to control it, it disappears. It is very sneaky bastard.
I think a lot of people have a lot of distrust.